So the way to win with Meta ads in 2025 going into 2026 is totally different from what it has been in the past. And I recently made a video breaking down Meta's Andromeda, which is their new updated machine learning system, and how you actually need to structure your campaigns and how you need to think about your ads to actually be able to get any results for your business. And I got a lot of questions from people asking about campaign structure, how to do creative testing, and what it actually means for their business and how this applies to their very, very specific and unique business. And I understand there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding this update. So I wanted to actually sit down and go through some of the most frequent asked questions that I've gotten from founders and advertisers to really make sure that you get full clarity on what this means for your business and what you need to do moving forward. Now, if you haven't watched that video I made, the link is in the description. So just make sure you watch that one after you watch this video. But essentially, Meta's new Andromeda is just a drastic upgrade to their machine learning, to the algorithm. It is now able to handle way more creative. And the reason why Meta have done this change is because so many advertisers are starting to test such a volume of new ads that they needed a system that could handle that volume of creative. And now it is able to handle that volume. And essentially, in short, what this whole update is about, Meta's algorithm is now able to match the ad, the creative, the video, the image, and the copy at a much more efficient level than what it was before, okay? So creative diversity, having a lot of ads is the new way to win, essentially. But there's a lot of nuance around this, and the way to structure campaigns and the way to actually run your ads is very different. So I guess that's why there's so much confusion surrounding this new update. So some of the questions I'm going to cover in this video is, number one, just going over the campaign structure once again, but going deeper and telling you how I think about the campaign structure depending on what type of business you're in. So in my last video, I did go over this where I talked about the new setup where you should have one scaling campaign and one testing campaign, and all of the testing should be done within, of course, the testing campaign, and you should only put proven winners into the scaling campaign. But there's some nuance to this because for some businesses, you might have a very limited budget, okay? You might be a small budget account. And in that case, you might be better off running a slightly different strategy, which I will get into. Now, also, if you're running ads locally to a more narrow audience, I think there's some slight nuance you should consider there as well that we're doing for our clients, and we're seeing good results actually doing a campaign structure that's slightly different from this. And I'll get into that in this video as well. I'll also answer some other frequent questions such as, what should you do if you have multiple different offers in your ad account that you want to test? Should you put that in the same campaign? Should you separate out? I'll get into that stuff. What should you do if you're a high SKU business with multiple different products? Should you have separate campaigns for separate products, etc., etc.? So I'll get into some of that stuff. And also, how should you think about the different awareness stages of your potential customers, right? Some people might be on the top of funnel, right? They might have never seen your brand before, totally new to your business and your offer. But while other people are very familiar with your offer, okay? They've probably seen your logo before, they're more familiar with your type of product. So the way to market to them should be slightly different. And how do you then structure that within this new setup after the Andromeda update? I'll also get into talking about what to actually do when you do find winners and how to structure and how to move ads from the test campaign to the scaling campaign and what you should expect when doing this process. And one very important question that a lot of people are uncertain about is, what does creative diversity even look like? Like, so many people are talking about this. You probably know that it's important, but what does it actually look like? When you go into an ad account, how should you think about this different ads? And what differences do you need to be testing to be able to get to a stage where you have an ad account that has massive creative diversity? So I'll get a little bit practical there. And all of the information that I'm going to go through in this video might be a little bit overwhelming. So I've actually created a Meta Ads Andromeda playbook PDF that you can get with the link in the description of this video. And with that, you'll also get a custom GPT that I've trained on all of the differences so that it should be able to answer any question you might have. So make sure you click the link in the description and get that so that you can actually get up to speed and understand the new way to run ads in 2025 going into 2026. So let's actually get into this because we have a lot of stuff to cover. Now, first and foremost, my name is Oli. If you're new to the channel, this is just where I share the lessons and learnings from managing ads for e-com and local service businesses. Over the last 5 years, I've managed multiple seven figures in ad spend, helping businesses all around the world in different industries get amazing results with Meta ads. So if you want to learn more about Meta ads and actually be up to date on what's going on in this landscape that is always changing, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell as well, so you get notified every time I have a new update or a new video. So one of the things that had the most amount of confusion was surrounding the campaign structure, okay? So because we now need creative diversity to win, we need to be able to produce that creative diversity through testing. So right now, I think most businesses should only run with 1 or 2 campaigns, nothing more than that. Of course, there's going to be some exceptions, but for most businesses, you should only run with 2 campaigns, okay? Now, the budget split between the two, as you can see here, scaling should have about 60 to 80%, while testing should have about 20 to 40%. Now, here's the nuance, okay? If you have a new account or small budget account, I think you should do all of your budget on testing. Reason being, there's a lot of value in consolidating your ad spend. So having more data per ad set. And to get more data per ad set, you need more spend per ad set. So what I do think for some businesses is that the testing campaign should be both testing and scaling. So in the beginning, this campaign should do both. So what that means is you have actually one testing campaign here that has 100% of your budget, okay? Budget type is daily and bid strategy is highest volume, okay? So for the scaling campaign, the bid strategy can be ROAS goal or cost per result goal. But if you have a low budget account or low spend account, you want to make sure that you use highest volume. Reason being, succeeding with cost control bid strategies, so running with a cost per result goal or ROAS goal is very difficult to get to work for you unless you have consistent data coming in. So if you have an account that's spending, let's say just $50 per day or lower, then it's very difficult to get that consistent data coming in. And in that case, I would definitely recommend you do highest volume, okay? Now, of course, you need to be on top of everything in terms of making sure you don't lose money on your campaigns, because here you're telling Meta to spend your budget regardless of your results. So if you're not hitting your target, then you need to make changes right away manually, okay? When you do have a cost per result or ROAS goal, you're going to protect your profitability a little bit more. That means if you have a day where you're just not hitting your ROAS, it's probably going to spend less over time, and it's going to kind of align the spend of your campaign with the results and the profitability that you're getting. But with highest volume, it's just going to spend your money every day, okay? So the difference here is that if you have a super low spending account, let's say you're doing, as I said, less than $50 per day, you don't want to have too many ad sets going at the same time. So when you're starting out, I would just have one ad set, and within that ad set, you can have up to 50 ads, okay? So every time you launch a new test, instead of launching them inside a new ad set, I would just put in a new ad into that ad set, okay? That way, we're getting more spend and more data per ad set, and we're consolidating our budget for the account. But with Meta's new Andromeda, it's still going to be able to handle the introduction of a new ad because it's very good at quickly figuring out who to show this ad to, okay? So that's how I would do it. Now, over time, what you want to do is when you start to spend more and more money and you have some winners, okay, I would turn this testing campaign into the scaling campaign. So hopefully this is not confusing you, but just imagine like these 3 ad sets here weren't here, okay? Now, what you would do here is over time, now you will have some winners in this ad set. Let's say we're just running with batch number 1 here and we just continue to introduce new ads into this ad set. Then at some point, you're going to have some winners and you probably have increased your spend. Now this turns into your scaling campaign, and then you launch another campaign, which now will be your testing campaign, okay? And then every time you launch a new test, you will put in that test. So 4 to 6 ads per test, that's what we aim for, but you can do more than that. And that will be a new ad set, okay? And that's how you kind of transition into this structure. So that's how I would do it for small spending accounts. And then at that point, you want to continue to do the structure and follow the framework as I've shown in my last video. Again, the link to that video is in the description. When you find winners that are hitting both your target CPA or target ROAS and it's getting volume of spend, so that result is actually proven, then you would introduce that into the scaling campaign and just make sure that you keep the engagement from that ad when you introduce it to the scaling campaign. Now, another question that a lot of people had was regarding what should you do after you move the ad into the scaling campaign, okay? Because as you can see here, I'm noting here in the setup that you should keep it active in the testing campaign even after you've moved it into the scaling campaign. The reason for that is we don't want to lose the momentum that we built in this campaign, okay? So we want to keep it active in there because the learning for the targeting happens on the ad set level, okay? So when you introduce it into the scaling campaign, it might take some time to build up that momentum again in terms of targeting. Should happen, but it might take some time because you already have a bunch of winners here. So Meta will probably continue to prioritize the previous winners before it starts to allocate spend to the new winner. So what we want to do is we want to keep it active in the testing campaign in the meantime. And what happens when you start finding new winners over time, you will start to see that the previous winner in the testing campaign doesn't get as much spend anymore. And at some point you probably will turn it off. So the transition should be very smooth. We should keep the momentum on the test campaign and then just adjust it over time. When it stops having that momentum on the test campaign, that's when you turn off the ad sets so that we can continue to introduce new ad sets and not have too many ad sets active at the same time. Now, another question that I got was regarding what should you do if you have different offers and different products that you want to test? Should you mix the different offers and the different products in the same campaign? My opinion is this. this. If you have different offers and different products that you run at the same time, what you should consider is this, okay? Like, is it okay if these offers compete for the same audience? So let's give an example. Let's say you run a clothing store, e-commerce brand, okay? And you have a jacket that is your best seller. What should you do if you have, some pants that you want to push as well? Should you introduce ads for those pants into the same campaign where you're currently running with the jackets? Now, my opinion is yes, if you're okay with these competing with each other. So a couple things you should consider here, okay? If the jacket and the pants have a very different price point and a very different margin, then what is going to happen is that if you're using highest volume bid strategy, Meta is just going to prioritize the one that gets the most volume of conversions. But let's say the jackets are way more valuable, so those conversions are just way more valuable and profitable for your business. Then we don't want Meta to start prioritizing the pants because those are lower value and less profitable conversions. So in that case, I would separate out to a different campaign for the pants, okay? And continue running this testing setup for the jackets. But if you really want to push, the pants, then do that in a separate campaign. So what would that look like? Okay, so let's say we want to introduce the campaign for the pants. Then I would just do a campaign like this, okay? You don't need to call it scaling because it would be both scaling and testing at the same time. It would do both of the jobs for you. You would just give the campaign the name with the product so you can keep it organized in your ad account. And then you would just run one ad set. You could do broad, excluding existing customers, or you can include existing customers if you want to kind of cross-sell them into this new offer or new product. And then you would just introduce ads and do all of the testing within the one ad set, okay? And that's how you would do it. And then over time, again, once you start spending a lot of money on this product and it's performing really well, then we can do a scaling campaign for this product or for this offer and a testing campaign for this offer or this product, okay? So you kind of do the whole same process just again for a new offer and product. But the thing here to keep in mind is that you probably have a very, very high spend in your ad account when you're starting to do this, because now you have like 2 campaigns per offer, per product. And I would only do that if you really, really want to push this new offer or this different offer on the front end. Because, okay, let's imagine again, same example. We have this e-commerce store with both jackets and pants. Now, don't you think it's better to lead with jackets if that's already proven to perform the best and then upsell them or cross-sell them through email or within the e-commerce store itself? So think about it like this. Think of your ad account as kind of the storefront. If you have a store, you have a window, and in that window, you show the products that are the best at bringing people into your store, okay? So that should just be a few products. It could just be one product. It could just be 2 products. But we don't want to put all the products in there because there's just a few of them that are going to be the most relevant. And we have limited space in that storefront window. So you need to prioritize what you put in that window to get people into your store. But as soon as they come into your store, you can cross-sell them and upsell them and, sell multiple different products to them. But the thing is, like, some of your products and some of your offers are going to be way better at getting in new customers than others. But once you get them in, it's way easier to cross-sell them and upsell them into different stuff, okay? So that's my take on it. But if you absolutely want to run multiple different offers at the same time that have different price points and margins, you can do this setup per offer. But for very, very few, we don't do that for any of our clients because it just doesn't make sense for most of them. Now, while we're talking about this, it's very important to consider the fact that if you're getting customers into your store and on average, they are worth about the same, okay? They come in and they buy different type of products, but on average, the value per order doesn't fluctuate too much, okay? If that's the case, then it doesn't really matter too much if you're leading with the jackets or the pants, if they're spending around the same and the profitability per order is very much the same, okay? So in that case, if you have multiple different products, but on average, people buy different things, but the order value doesn't fluctuate too much, then it doesn't really matter too much which product they came in through, okay? So in that case, you can put all of the different offers and products, you can just think about them as separate ads. So let's say you want to start pushing another category or another product. What you can just do here is you can just launch a new batch that has ads with that product, okay? And you can think about your products as just another variable of what you can implement into your ads when you're testing them. So you can kind of just think about your products as a variable that you would test just as if it was another concept for an ad, okay? And over time, you should have winning ads that are bringing in about the same profitability anyways. And that way we can consolidate our ad account a lot more, and we don't need to have all of these different campaigns, because consolidating is very, very powerful. When you have more data per ad set, it's much easier to build that momentum. And as you know, when Meta has more data, the algorithm works a lot better. Now, another question that I got regarding this structure is, how do you think about the different awareness stages of your potential customers when you set up and test the ads? Because some people seeing your ads will have never seen your brand before, never seen your offer before, while other people might be familiar with your business and your offer, and they're more ready to buy. So how do you differ and how do you structure based on that? Now, the beautiful thing about Meta Andromeda is that you can have ads that are optimized for different awareness stages in the same ad set. So what you would do, you would just test those ads. For example, they might have a testimonial or a review, or be a little bit more focused around some technical things about your offer or your product that wouldn't be as relevant for people that are totally new to your business. And you would just test them just as you do with any other ad in here, okay? And if it works, it's going to show good CPA. It's going to give you hopefully volume of spend as well. The thing here is that, of course, that ad is not going to be as scalable because the warm audience is always smaller than the cold audience, but it should still give you some indication that it works well before you introduce it to the scaling. Okay, when you introduce it to the scaling campaign, it will probably not get as much spend as the very top of funnel ads, but again, you can have up to 50 ads in here, and some of them could definitely be a more middle of funnel or bottom of funnel targeted ad. Okay, so talking a little bit more about, for example, showing testimonials, as I said, or going into the details of like how the product works, stuff like this, that could definitely live within this ad set as well. So even though you have some ads that are more like middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, just test them as you would do any other ad. Now, if you run a very, very high spend account, just note that this is the top of funnel evergreen structure that I have here. You could decide to set up a retargeting campaign, but for most businesses, I wouldn't do that. I would really only think about a separate retargeting campaign in 2025 and 2026. But if the customer journey from first time seeing your ads to converting is around, let's say, just a couple of weeks or less than that, then definitely don't set up a separate retargeting campaign, because that's not necessary anymore with Meta's new machine learning system. So one question that I got a lot is like, what does creative diversity actually mean? Like, how do you actually produce ads that end up resulting in creative diversity? So I just want to show you here an example. And I also talked about this brand in the previous video that I made. So I just want to give you an indication of what creative diversity actually means. So this is True Classic. They're doing a great job at the performance marketing. They're selling t-shirts. So their performance marketing is basically what built their brand. So they're doing a really good job there. So as you can see here, they are running with 93 active ads simultaneously. Okay, so that is what creative diversity means, because look at these ads. They have videos, UGC videos, tapping into different types of audiences. Here you have a UGC video. We can just look at some of them, right? Super UGC style. Let's play it from the beginning.
I've worn these True Classic tees everywhere, and I mean everywhere. From hanging out with the family.
Right. So this is UGC style. If you scroll further down, you will also see that they're running some ads that are statics, okay, with a bold statement in the top here. That's a very different format. That actually looks more like an ad, but they're also running with, again here, videos targeted towards men, right? And then if we scroll further down, you can see here that they're running with a bit of humor style ads.
What do you want?
I want you to stop ordering so many True Classic tees.
These are the only t-shirts that fit me tight in the arms and chest and are loose.
Right, so again, another format, and the list just goes on. They're running with so many different types of ads targeted to different personas within their broad audience. So they're having ads that can be very, very good for men 35, between 35 and 40, but at the same time, they're running with ads that could be targeted towards women, age 40 to 50. And that is exactly what creative diversity means. So the testing framework that we use in Strand Media for our clients these days is launching these new weekly batches that are new concepts that consist of 50% iterations. That means like a new hook or a new variation, like a new slight change in the design of an ad based off an ad that performed really well historically, while the other 50% of ads are what we call big swings. That means we're testing something brand new that we've never tested before. A new concept, a new style of video, a new type of design that we've never tested before. So that is how you end up with, over time, finding different types of winners, start tapping into different personas within your audience, and end up in your scaling upselling campaign over time. Now, I hope you found this video valuable. If you have any further questions specific to your business, make sure you leave it in the comment section below. I answer every comment from subscribers, so make sure you subscribe. And if you want to get the Meta Ads Andromeda playbook with the custom GPT that I built out, where you can just ask your questions and get immediate response, make sure you click the link in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.